Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a preview for the 2021 AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Now, if you were watching the Waste Management Open review video, you would know that I decided going forward, I'm only going to do 3 videos. We're going to do a preview, strategy, and a review video. I usually had a 4th one in that rotation, and it would be a course fit video, but I'm now going to include that in my previews. I can get through it pretty quickly, and that was kind of the issue before when I used to do everything together. Videos just ended up being way too long, but I'm going to condense it a little bit and really get to the point in these videos going forward. But I also want to change kind of the format of my previews. I want to give a little bit more of a background of a tournament. So I'm going to talk about the format of the tournament, how many rounds are played before the cut, field total, cut information, weather forecast, withdrawals, that kind of thing. So let's go ahead and get into that. But first, I want to remind you guys can find timestamps in the description. Also, chapter mode's enabled. The progress bar on YouTube is cut into segments. Those segments are titled. You can see what part is what. This tournament for the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am is no longer a Pro-Am for this year. They cut it because of COVID-19. So usually you'd have 156 golfers in the tournament, PGA Tour players, I should say. They all would have a Pro-Am partner. So that just doubles the field. With that many golfers, you need to split them up in order to get a full round of a tournament done. So they would do that by sending them to 3 golf courses. You would have Pebble Beach Golf Links, Spyglass Hill Golf Course, and then the Monterey Peninsula Country Club. They cut out Monterey. They also cut 3 rounds before a cut is determined. That's how it used to be before. All the pros would play each of the 3 golf courses before a cut was determined. Now it's after 2 rounds of golf, which is nice because scoring before on DraftKings, it was very condensed at the top. You could cash pretty easily as long as you had the winner and, 1 or 2 golfers in the top 10 with a missed cut or 2 missed cuts. You could cash that way. I've done it before. That's kind of how the American Express was as well. So having it now to 2 rounds makes a huge difference. It's also 156 golfers in the field. Last week was 132. So this is a lot like the Farmers Insurance Open. 6-6 through the cut is going to be a bit more difficult this week than it was last week. And especially with how bad the field is, I would anticipate, under 1% of lineups, I think, in tournaments. I say under 1%. I feel like that's a little aggressive, but it's going to be close to that of DFS golfers making 6-6 through the cut. It's gonna be difficult to find the right combination of players at this golf course or at this tournament. So again, cut is going to 2 rounds instead of 3. It's actually changing from top 60 in ties to top 65 in ties because that's kind of how the Saturday round of golf used to always be, and it would be if there are if certain conditions are met. I'm not going to explain those now, but yeah, a lot of things change, and I think for the better. One thing I want to mention, let's go ahead and talk about withdrawals because one just happened, 5 minutes before me creating this video. Dustin Johnson ended up withdrawing. It was definitely something that was being talked about around the industry, because DJ won over in Saudi Arabia last week. What's the purpose of him playing this tournament? A lot of players do have obligations to play in these tournaments, but obviously DJ, winning a tournament, that's going to take a lot out of you. Flying over from Saudi Arabia, that's going to take a lot out of you. Those things kind of lined up. We kind of knew this was going to happen. So he is just one of, I think, 6 withdrawals. But on the DraftKings, what do we call it? The roster, there were 3 others. Now, I think there are 7 in total, but it's only showing 4. We only had 4. The other 3 didn't make the roster. They ended up happening before DraftKings threw out pricing. So the other 3, Matt Kuchar, Wyndham Clark, and KH Lee. So if you made dummy lineups, make sure you switch those out before lineup lock, basically. But those are really the only 4 notables. This tournament, though, in the past has had a lot of withdrawals prior to the start of the tournament. I'm not sure why. My only guess is because of weather. If the weather forecast looks terrible, this is a time of year at this particular place where it gets cold. So Pebble Beach is just southwest of San Francisco. Winds come in, it gets cold. You're going to see a lot of golfers wearing a bunch of layers. They're going to be wearing stocking caps, that kind of thing, playing this golf course, especially if it's windy and if it's cold. Actually, we can look at the weather forecast right now. So I do have the 10-day Pebble Beach weather forecast up right now. You can see what it looks like Tuesday, Wednesday, but Thursday, Friday, obviously, those are the days of the tournament. 57 degrees on Thursday with showers, 9 miles an hour of wind forecasted right now. You should definitely take a look Wednesday prior to, I should just say Wednesday evening, just to see if this really changes drastically, and then probably alter your lineups accordingly, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be okay looking at the forecast now. It looks like Thursday and Friday are kind of the best weather days, minus the rain. Let's see, what does Thursday, 50% chance of rain during the day. Friday, 40% chance of rain during the day. So it looks like it's going to be pretty even for anyone doing like a morning afternoon stack. If you're a seasoned vet when it comes to creating lineups, of the different morning afternoon stacks and doing that kind of thing. I don't think it's really going to matter that much. If there was one thing to say, always favor the PM to AM stack. I think overall, I don't have the stats in front of me, but overall it performs a little bit better. But there we go. We talked about the tournament information, withdrawals, also went through the weather. Let's go ahead and get into the tournament fact sheets. So this is part of the course fit portion of the video that I would just do, obviously, in the course fit videos, but it allows us to see how the tournament is going to be set up at the golf course. You can see here, this is for the Pebble Beach golf links, and as we go through this, you're just going to see real simple information, very general knowledge kind of stuff. So par 72, 36, 36, front 9, back 9, yardage 7,000. That's kind of on the short side of a par 72. Stimp meter is running at a 10.5. Now, that's kind of slow. Last week, these golfers had a stimp of 12. And it's basically, I think it's feet. Oh man, I forget how the stimp meter. Basically, at a certain level, superintendent's going to drop a golf ball down a ramp, and he's going to measure how far it runs out. So I don't remember what the distance is, but 10.5, obviously shorter than 12, meaning the greens are a bit slower. And it's also going to be wet. Anticipate very soft conditions. Basically, all your ball strikers are going to have a field day because they get to control. Basically, any ball landing on the green is going to react the way that they want it to. So either way, want to mention that 10.5 soft greens. You can see the rest of the course statistics here. 3,500 square feet. These are the smallest greens that the tour is going to face. Obviously, it's a short yardage, so it kind of counteracts. It's a tournament that can be difficult, especially if the wind comes up. Everyone knows that about Pebble Beach, but I think it's going to be pretty decent. During this time of the year, it's pretty soft. We are on Poa annua greens, and you can see ryegrass tees, fairways. The tees to rough don't really matter. I mean, the rough does, especially like if it was a Bermuda grass, that kind of stuff. But usually tees to rough don't really matter. It's all about the greens. So we're on Poa annua. If you're unfamiliar with that grass type, you're going to hear this throughout the industry, but a bit of it is exaggerated. So Poa annua grows differently throughout the day. Some superintendents hate that because how growth regulators are thrown onto golf courses, especially during tournament conditions or expectations, whatever you want to call it, they can put enough growth regulator where the POA isn't going to grow differently. So that thought process, I mean, I used to say that in my videos too, but learning and educating myself a little bit, Poa annua isn't really going to have that bumpy surface that most people are going to say it does. I do think when you really stress out the golf course, it will do something like that. So like for US Opens, I mean, we obviously saw that at Chambers Bay. We also saw it at this golf course and Torrey Pines. You know, when Tiger made that miraculous, well, when he won off of one leg, basically. That was Poa. If you saw his last putt, you know, on hole 18, it bounced all over the place. That's also 4 rounds of golf at the US Open. It's going to be difficult. But with the growth regulators that are put on there now, Poa annua doesn't really alter that much. I would say that it does also offer up a bit more of softer conditions. Those softer conditions will affect those greens, where they will become bumpier based off of spike marks and, you know, old ball marks on the green, that kind of stuff. So that is definitely something to consider. It does, I think, looking at Poa annua grass stats, definitely a huge help in this type of tournament, and I definitely will later on in this video. You can see a couple more additional notes here. I didn't really see anything that I thought was that important to say. You can obviously see the tournament is taking place during the wettest time of the year. We see that though every single year at this tournament. You can see who the architects are. I've never seen them on tour, you know, at other golf courses, so knowing that information probably not all that important. The second golf course in this rotation, Spyglass Hill. You can see nearly the same type of yardage, same setup. You know, par 72, 36, 36. I like that stimp meter tournament speed. Don't know what that means. I'm sure they're going to try to match it up to Pebble Beach, but it really determines on, you know, weather forecasts and how it's different at each of these courses. Spyglass is protected more by trees than Pebble Beach is, so wind is going to affect Pebble more so than it will Spyglass Hill. You can see the rest of the information here. 5,000 square feet. That's pretty close to average when it comes to square footage of green size. We're also, again, on Poa annua. You can see ryegrass is kind of mixed in with the Poa annua, all the way from tees to rough, fairways, that kind of stuff. You can see some other additional notes here, but all really not that important. Let's go ahead and get into a course breakdown. I used to kind of spend a lot of time talking about this, but I think the best way to do this is say, hey guys, if you want to read what I have written here, go ahead, pause the video. That way I can get through this quicker. And if you want to if you want to take the time to read what I've written, perfect. Because really all that matters is what we have in these two columns here. Off the tee shot shape, approach shot shape. This is kind of the preferred shot shape. Like if I see where there's a benefit, I'm going to put a fade or a draw. Or if I see if there's a requirement, you know, if it requires, like if it's a sharp dog leg that has trees that frame the hole where you can't go over, it would intend, like you would need to hit a particular shot shape around that type of hole. So that is how I determine what is required, what's not. Especially another thing would be like the greens. If the greens are shaped in a way where if you came in at the wrong direction, it really like narrows your landing area as opposed to, you know, coming in from the other direction. One of the, basically you'll see a lot of this say, you know, the green is shaped for a fade. Hole number 5 at Pebble Beach. It's at par 3. Everything slopes from left to right. The green is even shaped that way. Hitting a fade will get you closer to a bottom hole location. And that's probably the more difficult hole location to actually get to. Now, if it was on the opposite side, or if it was on like the opposite side, you would obviously need to hit the opposite, you know, shot shape. But either way, again, beneficial or required, I put it over here. And I obviously give a little bit of a description. So all in all, on Pebble Beach, I think it favors golfers who fade the golf ball one hole more than it would draws. But overwhelmingly, it really doesn't matter. It's a pretty wide open golf course. Some trees frame certain holes or I should say certain holes are framed by trees, but more often than not, it's pretty wide open. However, Spyglass Hill is a little bit different. So again, pause the video if you want to read this. Scrolling down, here, hold on. This goes down to hole 14. I'll go to hole 10, and then you guys can take a look from hole 10 down. Basically, what I found at this golf course, when looking at an aerial view, like from a satellite image, it looks like this course is tight, like because trees line each of these holes. But watching, past performances or just watching a video of golfers golfing on it, you can see that it's a little bit more wide open than it looks from a satellite image. So at first glance, I actually had a ton of fades and draws off the tee as well as approaches, but then watching golfers play on this golf course, it really doesn't matter. And there are some long carries that are required in order for a shot shape to really matter. Like I think hole number 14, you would need to hit a fade if you're hitting a drive 320 yards plus. Now, I don't think most golfers on tour are going to hit that here, especially with how cold it's going to be and depending on wind. It's probably not going to matter. So that really changed my mindset when it came to what shot shape is really required here. It's really any. So any golf course is in play, or any golf course, any golfer, any PGA Tour player is in play, despite, what shots they can and can't hit. So just keep that in mind. In all reality, I probably didn't even have to talk about this. But either way, I like doing this just so you guys have a little understanding that I'm looking at this kind of stuff. And if shot shape really does matter, then we would discuss the players and their shot shapes, because I do hold all that information. And basically with that, this is me watching video on every golfer and seeing what the preferred shot shape is. I do have a kind of a database that shows me what their preferred shot shape is, and then also if they can hit the opposite shot. I usually would just have like a note in here that I would just add saying they can hit both shots, but really the preferred shot, just like you guys at home, when you go up to a golf course or you're playing on a hole and you see a course is carved in a certain direction, you're either comfortable with that or you're not. That these pros are no different. Sure, most of them know how to hit shots different directions or both directions, but it's really their consistency of how well they can do it. Tommy Fleetwood couldn't close out the Honda Classic because he didn't know how to hit a fade into the green. Tried to, but hit the water. That kind of stuff happens. Still ended up finishing third in that tournament, and you probably still needed him in order to win a GPP. But either way, if you're looking for, outrights or anything like that, it might be a deciding factor. Maybe it won't be, but it's definitely information that's fun to use. Now, one piece that I'm going to bring into this video that I haven't really been doing in the other course fits, looking at regions of where these golfers live. So I'm going to change this to the Pacific because we are on the Pacific. You can see all the golfers that are currently calling home to this region. They are on the screen now. All I'm going to do is say, hey, if you like these golfers, just write them down. I'm not going to go through each one of these players. I just want to show you who's currently living in California or Washington, the state of Washington, as in what their region is. I'm also going to show you what the golfers are with their college region. So again, I will look at just the Pacific. And we have a few more. So obviously, Patrick Cantlay leads the list. Max Homa, Brennan Steele, James Hahn. We already have a withdraw with Wyndham Clark. Nick Taylor, he won this tournament last year. Maybe that's why, he had some ties to, the Pacific region. But yeah, you can see some of these other guys. Maverick McNeely did well here last year. Went to school in California. I should actually have what their college is just so you guys can see it, but I really don't think it matters all that much. When you play in a certain region, you kind of you're familiar with that type of grass and that type of, geography basically. But yeah, that is all I'm going to show when it comes to basically the demographics. Let's go ahead and get into the tournament history. So this is going to basically wrap up our course fit part of it, but I do want to talk about tournament history. It's not course history because obviously this tournament is usually played on 3 golf courses. This year it's only on 2, Pebble Beach being the primary one. That's the other thing I forgot to mention. It's Pebble Beach, Spyglass, and then Saturday, Sunday are only being played on Pebble Beach. So we're going to get 3 rounds of golf on Pebble Beach. I forgot to mention that. I think if you were reading the tournament information that I had up when we were going over it, I think it said it there. But either way, just want to make sure you guys know that at home. The best tournament history in the field is Daniel Berger, and he has 2 rounds of golf at this tournament, or not 2 rounds, 2 finishes that are within the top 10. He had a 5th here last year. He had a 10th place finish in 2015. We have Matthew Neesmith next, who finished 11th here last year. I really don't like kind of using golfers who've only played this tournament once and comparing them to everyone else. But you can see some of these guys, Joseph Bramlett, Harry Higgs, Tyler McCumber, Alex Noren. I'm going to remove them now. So those are just some names to let you in on. Actually, let me show you who are making their first appearances. Akshay Bhatia, he is kind of an up-and-comer. If you're unfamiliar with him, just remember the name, because I think he's going to be good in years to come. I think he's only 18. I think he just turned 19. But a young kid playing on the Mackenzie Tour up in Canada. He scores really well at tournaments. He might be a good flyer for you guys to choose. We have Sam Burns making his first appearance here. Ricky Fowler. I don't know if it's his first appearance, but it's his first appearance since 2013. Any other ones that kind of stand out? Francesco Molinari. It's his first. He's doing better this year. I think he might be worth a decent play. But these are first-time appearances at this tournament. Maybe not at Pebble Beach, but definitely at this tournament. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of 0 and 1 as the events played. And we're just going to look at golfers who've played this more than once, what their course history or tournament history is. Daniel Berger, like I said, leads the way, but then it's Jason Day. Jason Day here has an extremely good track record. Even last year when he kind of was struggling with his game. If we go ahead and take away his 75th place in 2014, his average comes down to 5.14. 5.14 in 6 events played. I'm sorry, 7 events played. I didn't think this updated in real time. But yeah, 7 events played, 5.14. Obviously, we have to include the 75th place, but it only moves it up to 13.88. I don't know how I feel about Jason Day this year, but if there was actually a vote of confidence to have, it's his tournament history at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. So pretty decent. And then Jordan Spieth. He comes in 3rd. And obviously he did well at the Waste Management Open. I have no issue playing Jordan Spieth either. And in all reality, I probably should have had him on the thumbnail of this video, but I actually had DJ. And like I said, 5 minutes prior to actually creating this video, I had to change the thumbnail. I had to change the person. So I used Jason Day, the exact same picture I had for last year's tournament. So if you think there's some laziness going on there, it was just I needed a player. And he obviously was one for last year, and his course history speaks for itself. So either way, Jordan Spieth might be a favorite play, and as might Phil Mickelson. I don't know if I want to play him. I might be in the book of, man, Phil's getting a little old. I'm not sure. Obviously he's getting a year older. This course history is going to run out sometime. He's just not going to be able to play with the big boys. But this golf course these golf courses aren't that long, and this guy knows his way around. Like, Phil is definitely in play. Definitely should be a consideration. I'm not going to talk about the rest of the guys. Obviously, we know DJ is not playing. I didn't update this part of it. But Streelman, Paul Casey, Patrick Cantlay, Scott Piercy. That's an interesting name because I think he's only $7,100. Scott Stallings, Matt Jones, who's been playing really good golf lately. Jimmy Walker. and so on and so forth. I'm not going to talk about the other guys. We have our champion down here, the defending champion, that is. But other than that, let's move on to the next piece. So basically, again, that concluded our course fit. Let's go ahead and really kind of personalize this preview. What I like to talk about is I want to give you guys kind of a template, basically. I want to let you guys know what works at this tournament, what doesn't, and that's what I want this preview to do. The strategy video is really honing down on what we really need to target. This is just kind of giving you what am I trying to think? I can only think of a template. But basically, this portion, I'm going to talk about historical salaries, and all this aims to do is let you in on, how either volatile this tournament is based off of the pricing that shows up inside the top 10 or top 5 of this tournament, or basically, are the favorites doing well, that kind of thing. I'm going to start really with kind of the summary portion of it. So average salary of the winner is $7,900. And we actually see only one golfer in the 9 to 10K range tag it down, but the other two winners over 2018 to 2020. That's the other thing I should also mention. I only have DK salaries going back to 2018 and then their finishing position. So I think they do have them for 2017. I just don't have that information. 2020 to 2018, that's what we're looking at. And we have two 7K golfers that have won this tournament and only one golfer outside that range to win, meaning the favorites don't really do that well at this tournament. Now, I say that, but if you were to also to look a little bit deeper, you can see a 10K golfer finishes inside the top 5 every single year. So although a 7K golfer wins more often than a 10K golfer, you definitely need both of them. And we'll talk about optimal lineups here coming right after this part. But yeah, $7,900 is your average salary for a winner. That is the lowest I've seen in a long time. The top 10 salary actually is very close to average. If we had a good field, year in and year out, like a good historical trend of golfers playing at this course, we'd probably see this closer to 83. I think for the Masters, it's at 8,900, meaning all of the favorite golfers, because DraftKings usually does it by odds or course history, that kind of stuff. For something like the Masters, it's really difficult to really create the lineups, but this gives you a little bit of flexibility. 8,300 is your average amount of salary you can spend on a player. Inside the top 10, the average salary is 8,100. So it means you still need mixes of 10K, 9K golfers, but you want to mix them with 7K. And that's kind of looking at this piece of information here. This is kind of your summary of the winners, but also your summary of top 10. We have 16 golfers over the last 3 years in the 7K range finish inside the top 10. That's how this reads. So you can see 4 for 10K and above, 6, 2 for 8 to 9K. So maybe peppering the 8K range, not the play this year or at this tournament. 16 between 7 and 8. And then below 7, we have 5. And then over on the right side here, this is actually just the percentage of all of these price points inside the top 10. So it's really looking at all the top 10 golfers from 2020 to 2018 or 2018 to 2020 and basically creating a percentage. How often really has that 10K and above filled out inside the top 10? Probably not the best way to explain it, but I think you guys get my gist. I also have another analysis box down here that really shows how many golfers total were in these buckets, these price buckets. So the 10K and above, there were 15 total over the last 3 years. With DJ actually withdrawing from this tournament, let me clear this out. And we look at salaries, we now only have 3 golfers that are in the 10K range. We only had 4, or 10K and above. We only had 4 prior to DJ withdrawing, but now we only have 3. What I would say to that is that does really limit the the likelihood that we see a 10K inside the top 10. I still think we're going to, but, if 15, obviously if you average that out, that's 5 per tournament from 2018 to 2020. Now we only have 3. That really dramatically reduces, I feel like, our chances of seeing a 10K inside the top 10. Either way, I still think you should roster a 10K golfer for sure. It's just really hard to create lineups because if you don't, add a 10K, trying to come up with a balanced lineup probably isn't going to work out. I think last week's optimal lineup had 4 golfers in the 7K range, 1 golfer in the 10, and then 1 in the 6. And that equaled out to be like 47,700 or something like that. So I would say don't get cute. I definitely would anchor your lineups around a 10K golfer and then maybe allocating 10 to 15% of your lineups not having a 10K golfer in it at all. I don't care how you create those lineups, whether you want to leave a bunch of money on the table or not. I think, you can do it however you want. It'll be good. But yeah, you can see the other totals that are in this range and then their top 10 percentage. So of the 15 golfers that played in the last 3 years that were 10K and above, 26.67% of those golfers finished inside the top 10. So it's a good clip, but also 100% of 10K golfers have finished inside the top 10 in the last 3 years. So that's another way to look at it, and that's how we do with the bucket system. So looking at this, really, really difficult to try to find a below 7K golfer. Sure, it shows up 5 times. You're probably gonna need a 6K golfer in order to take down a GPP, but trying to find one, you have a 1% chance of doing that. 7K, a little bit better. This is actually the best I've ever seen a 7K top 10 percentage. Obviously, 140 golfers in over the last 3 years that fit in this price bucket, but that percentage of finishing inside the top 10 really good. And also the 9 to 10K range, a really good percentage of finding the top 10 in that range as well. So if there was a way to create lineups, I definitely think you should go 10, 9, 2 guys in the 7, and then mix it up from there. I don't know how the pricing would be, depending on those players. The most expensive golfer in the field is no longer in the field. So yeah, that's kind of like, again, it's kind of a general, it's like a template. I can't, there's another word I want to use, but obviously I'm stuck on template. So we're going to call it that way. Just a template of creating lineups. The next piece I want to get into is the bucket system. And if you're unfamiliar with what the bucket system is, I will link a video top right-hand corner. It will explain what the bucket system is in its entirety. What I'm going to tell you right now, it's just looking at last year's finishing positions, and I do this all the way back to 2013. I throw those finishing positions into ranges, and then I rank them. The lower the rank, the better. So you can see what the finishing position range is here. 1st to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, so on and so forth. So I do that with last year's performances for each top 10 finish. I also do that for last week's finishes for each top 10 finish as well. And then I basically just rank them based off the totals. And just like in the price buckets, I look at every golfer inside the top 10 for these particular buckets. This is the last year bucket, and average them out. Put them in a percentage. I realize this is probably getting a little confusing, but here's what you need to know. The number 1 golfer that you want to target would be golfers who did not play last year at this tournament. It comes in with a 33.33%. I shouldn't even put it that way. I'm not going to put it that way. 33.33% of top 10 golfers have fallen under this bucket, but trying to find the right golfer, you have a 5.83% chance, basically. Our number 2 bucket would be golfers who finished top 20 here at the tournament before. So that one has a little bit better success rate. Obviously, we're only going to see like 20 golfers maximum usually every single year, top 20, obviously. But I think this year we only see, I forget how many. Yeah, let me go. last year finishing position. We have 19. So basically 20. I thought we were going to have a little less, but that ends up not being the case. So 17% of that, of 20 golfers, I mean, you can basically pick 3 of those golfers. Or I think 3 of those golfers have a good chance of finishing inside the top 10. I think that's how you want to look at this. For our last week buckets, though, golfers who did not play last week, definitely one of the higher frequencies of finishing inside the top 10. Golfers who missed the cut last week, another one. So Daniel Berger kind of fits in this bucket. I think that would be good. And then the third bucket are golfers who finished top 20 the week before. So that's kind of how that looks like. I also go by bucket combination, which I think I'll just mostly talk about in the strategy video. But it's looking at all the different last year, last week combinations and then putting those to a percentage as well of golfers finishing inside the top 10 and top 5. So obviously your best top 10 bucket combination would be last year ones, last week ones. And again, those are golfers who did not play last year or last week. So, you can see that on my spreadsheet when we go through it. But obviously, if you guys have your own data, highlighting those golfers or kind of going with those, probably a little bit more of a beneficial route. Not saying it's going to happen all the time. Obviously, 17.28%. Not the greatest percentage. And again, that's comparing all of the bucket combinations together. So not the greatest stat. Really, I need to kind of break this down a lot like the price salaries or the pricing buckets. And that's kind of what this column over here is for. Just haven't gotten there yet. But either way, 14 1-1s have finished inside the top 10 since 2013. That's a good way to put it too. Your best top 5 would be your 2-1s. So let's go ahead and actually look at those golfers. So obviously I said we want to look at 1-1s and 2-1s. So I'll go ahead and just filter those golfers out. And let's go by price. That's perfect. DJ's obviously out. We can go ahead and remove that golfer. Patrick Cantlay, if there's a reason to play him, the fact that he's a 2-1 and that is the best bucket combination to show up inside the top 5 is probably the best bet. Francesco Molinari is your best 1-1. So maybe if you're starting lineups, Cantlay and Molinari might be the way to go. I wouldn't be that narrow-minded when it comes to creating lineups. I know this rarely ever works out. Just my 2 cents. We have a bunch of other good 2-1s here. Phil, Peter Malnati, Maverick McNeely, Scott Piercy. Those are all decent choices. And again, fitting inside the price buckets, 7.1K, 7.6, 7.8. They're all in the 7K range. Maybe this is where you find your 2-1 that might finish inside the top 5 or inside the top 10. And you don't have to limit to just one golfer. Maybe you want to do a stack of Pierre Malnati and Patrick Cantlay. That's one way to go. But yeah, I'm looking at price points here and going down because obviously when we get in the 6K range, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, play Johnny Vegas. That he's in the 7K range or Roger Sloan. But if you guys have reasons to play these guys, this is just going to put them over the hump where you definitely want to play them. So hopefully you guys are looking at the sheet. Pause the video just to get some of these players. I'm not talking about everybody. Obviously, you can see there's a ton of 1-1s, and that's probably why it helps with the percentage of being so good showing up. One last thing that I should have done earlier, and I apologize for not doing this. I do want to talk about grass stats. So bucket system, I didn't really go that far in depth, but I am sitting at 40 minutes. I want to show you what the best grass stats are. And really, I should have done this right after course history, but either way, here we are. And we can talk about this. Paul Casey has your best overall POA. And I think it was DJ. Obviously, he just withdrew. So we have Paul Casey with the best POA average in the field since 2013. Patrick Cantlay is second. Jason Day, Jordan Spieth. I do think there are decisions you need to have between those 4 golfers. I don't care which way you go. For me, I'm not a huge proponent of Jordan Spieth. I don't think that it's going to be. Okay, let me back up. Jordan Spieth played well last week. That was in the desert where you could basically spray the ball all over the place. As long as you didn't find the water, it was going to be okay. I don't think he's going to get away with that here. I don't think the rough is as penal. It's going to be a little bit more so than the desert, because obviously that was dormant Bermuda. So it's going to be a little thicker, but I think how short this golf course is, like, I think Jordan's going to disappoint. I don't think he's going to miss the cut per se, but I think he's going to finish worse. I mean, 9,700 is way too expensive for Jordan. He was just at 7,600 at the Waste Management Open and just shot up $2,000. I won't be playing Jordan Spieth. I say that, but I'll probably play 1 or 2 lineups in him just for FOMO reasons. I'm probably just staying away. Jason Day, on the other hand, I can't even say on the other hand, he fits that same mold as Jordan Spieth. He's tinkering with something. He's going through swing changes. He's trying to alleviate pressure that happens on his back during a golf swing. He obviously has a really soft back when it comes to injuries. He gets injured often, and it's mostly because of his back. So I would say Jason Day and Jordan Spieth, those are difficult golfers for me to get behind. But Patrick Cantlay and Paul Casey, let's put it this way. I hate playing Paul Casey. He disappoints me every time I play him. I will still play him, but being a 6-1, not the greatest. Like, 6-1s don't really show up inside the top 10 very often. Like, I have the entire top 10 of every single year up here. How often do you see a 6-1? I've got one here. Okay, we have a 3rd place there, and then an 8th place there. So for his price point, if you were to get 3rd, perfect. But if you were to get 8th or 7th, not that great. And usually last year's 6s, not the greatest bucket to fall on, especially for 10K. I'm not saying he can't finish inside the top 10. He very well could. The percentages aren't terrible because obviously we probably just don't have that many golfers in those price buckets. But man, I don't think I can get behind Paul Casey, especially being a last year 6, last week 1. So those are your top guys when it comes to POA. I also like to look at the top 10 POA percentage. And I really kind of compare it to how many events a golfer's played. So you can see Akshay Bhatia up here, 50% finishing inside the top 10 at POA events. He's only played two of these events. So obviously in 2021, I don't remember what tournament that would have been. It could have been the Safeway Open. He had a 9th place finish. So with that, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Obviously, 47 means he probably missed cut, right? 40, so 85 plus 9. 94. 47 plus 47, that's 94. So he missed cut and had a 9 and a top 10. So his made cut percentage is 50%. His top 10 percentage is 50%. You guys can do with that as you will. Jason Day has a really good top 10 percentage. But basically, as I scroll through this, my rule of thumb is anyone over 6%, actually anyone over 7%, that is the rule of thumb, is in play. Anyone under, I mean, it's a gamble. But as I go through this, pause the video, look at some of these golfers over here on the left side, over in this column or this column. And really anyone that's over 7% is what you're looking for. At least that's how I would try to find my golfers. So there we have it. I wasn't sure if you could see if my head was in the way. But yeah, I think Ryan Armour makes that up. I'm not saying any of these guys can't do well down here and that they won't make the cut, but usually finishing inside the top 10, you definitely want to look at golfers that are top 10%. And I can look at the 2020 DK page just to show you what that looks like. So here's that top 10 percentage. We do have a couple guys here that have 0, 5. Matt Jones showed up. But you can see also some of these zeros definitely have the lower amount of events under their belt. That was 2020, and then this is 2019. I don't have the POA percentage. You can see the overall POA averages, though. It's a mix, so just keep that in mind. Again, it's just a rule of thumb. It's not, a concrete thing that I know for sure you want to, stay away from anyone who is less than 7%, but that's just my rule of thumb. I think with that, though, I know I would typically talk about favorite plays. I would rather look more at the data in order to find that. I kind of already mentioned, I like Patrick Cantlay. Obviously, Francesco Molinari shows up. Sam Burns I like as well. I also like Will Zalatoris and Daniel Berger. Daniel Berger being a 10K golfer, not terrible. Yeah, I'm not going to name everybody that I like, but I do like a bunch of golfers up here. But once you get past a certain point, it's rough. So I feel like under 7.5 ends up, you really have to make some choices, like some difficult choices of who you like and who you don't like. Yeah, I'll get more into this during the strategy video. We'll really hunker down. We'll look at the optimizer that I created. We'll try, figuring out what the best, combination of golfers are to put together. Definitely using the bucket system, looking at strokes gained buckets. And I am going to include recent form buckets. So we're going to really try to mix it all in together and see how well that works when it comes to creating lineups. And we'll go from there. I apologize, though, for this kind of being all over the place. Forgot to add the grass stats with the course fit part. That's where it should be. But all in all, I think it was pretty decent. Let me know how you feel about it in the comments below. But thank you guys for watching all the way up to this point. If you did like it, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you in the strategy video tomorrow. All right, bye.